All right, people. So I apologize for being super slow as usual and not knowing what I'm doing half the time with this stuff. I apologize to everyone that is on, and hopefully we can get this thing going now, okay? So, again, as usual, welcome to today's Facebook Live, which is Strategies for Reducing Stress and Enhancing Family Well Being. Talking about stress, I cannot figure this thing out half the time. I have it scheduled to go live, and of course, when it goes live on my side, it just says starting live, starting live, starting live. So, anyway, I'm glad you're here, and we're going to try to keep things in a timely manner here as we typically do. And when talking about stress, it makes you sweat a little bit and it makes you a little bit shinier, just like me. So, let me go right into it. According to the Office of the Surgeon General, 41% of parents can't function due to stress. If you are a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And if coincidentally you are listening, or later if you watch it, the replay, comment on there if you can relate. You don't have to say if you are or you aren't, but just comment on there. 48% say that the stress is overwhelming. Now, let me make comparisons to you. And it's too late for y'all that already have kids like me, all right? I got 4. I can't return them. I told you 41% of parents can't function due to stress. That's compared to 20% of those that aren't parents. The 48% say the stress is overwhelming. That's compared to 26% of those that aren't parents. So our job as educators, as it relates to this topic, is to teach our parents some life skills. I understand that we want to talk about what works, what doesn't work, but more importantly, everything that they need to know about school, the curriculum, the attendance, the classroom visits, the class nights, all of those things. I understand that. However, I also want you to understand that it's important that we teach them life skills, the skills that they need to be able to get through life. Because if we teach them these skills, such as dealing with stress, then they might actually show up. They might actually participate more. These are things that we need to help them with. And just to give you an idea, there are approximately 63 million parents with children under 18 years old. Now, that doesn't include the millions of caregivers. Those are the parents, the millions of caregivers. Our job, again, is to try to help them cope. Look, here's the reality. Educators, you can again comment or let me know if you agree. You're stressed. When I say you, let me make sure I'm highlighting you. You are stressed, and you yourself are struggling talking about it, sharing about it, opening up about it, or even letting anybody know. And if you are a person of color, I'll use myself, Hispanics, it doesn't even exist in our families. No, you're not stressed. You just, keep going. You just use some Vicks Vapor Rub. You just go to sleep early. You just get some rest and it goes away. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I know people, adults, parents of our educators and of our own parents or their grandparents, that will say to their faces, I don't know where this stress thing came about. It didn't exist when I was younger. Okay. It just automatically bloomed out of nowhere. It did exist, but how did we deal with it? Or, better said, did we deal with it? So let me move on to the other part that I want to make sure that we're covering and we're sharing about this. What are your signs of stress? Here is something that we need to teach our families. Sometimes we have zero clue as to what it is. Let me use myself as an example because it's easy to clown on me. When I worked for the University of Michigan, I used to run a program called Dialogues on Diversity along with Dr. Pat McCune, great supervisor. She's the one that ran it. I'm the one that helped her. She came to my cubicle once and she said, Ernesto, why are you stressing? I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't stress. That doesn't exist for Mexicans. We don't stress. She said, Ernesto, you probably don't know this about yourself, but when you stress, you like to eat more chocolates. Now, for those of you that know me, you already know I'm a chocoholic as it is. So that worries me now because now I'm thinking, am I stressing all of the time then? Because I'm always craving chocolates and I want a bunch. She says, no, I can usually tell. If you go and get one chocolate bar, you're okay, you're fine. If I come to your desk and I see 3 or 4, which I will eat them all, by the way, I know something is going on. She knew before I knew how I behaved when I was stressing. I didn't even know it. So your behavior can change. And these are things that we can teach our parents. Our children need to know this. If our parents can identify what stresses them, guess what they teach their children? If our parents continue to say stressors don't exist, you just keep pushing, guess what our children are doing? So we want to make sure that we're talking to them, that we're letting them know. So behavioral changes. Now, I'm going to get a little bit direct with you all. When behavioral changes, it can be something as stealing. It can be something as your diet. It can be something as how promiscuous you are. It can be how you speak, the groups you're getting into online. Those are behavior changes. Diet changes, I just told you. Mine's a chocoholic, so some sort of sweets, but also eating more or eating less. There's a reason every other movie shows the breakup person sitting on the couch in a tub of ice cream. Because apparently that's the medicine when you're bad, when you're sad, when you're upset. Medicine, ice cream. Makes me feel better, makes me think that there are no problems. Alcohol consumption, and here are the other ones. These are just a few that I listed. Your energy is low. There's a reason you don't want to get up. There's a reason you're sitting there binging for hours in a dark room. And sometimes we try to tell ourselves, well, I'm just, relaxing right now. Sure. But if somehow we start relaxing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday night in the same manner, maybe it's stress. Why is this important? Why am I covering it? Not just for our educators, but for you to be able to help our families identify those stressors. In a lot of our families' cases, they don't have the time to even think about the stressor. So we think. When they go to bed, when they're driving to work, when they're sitting at home, when they're in the shower. Trust me, because experience is talking here. Stress pops up. You're thinking about these things. And, I don't like saying this, but it's the truth. When I became a college dean, I had a full set of hair. I was actually lighter. After those 5 years, I had 0 hair and I was a lot heavier. Those are signs of stress. Stress can really break us down. And I want us to be aware of that so that we can teach our families what it does. I'm going to give you an example of when I was in higher ed and how this relates to us teaching our families about stress and well-being. In my last year, I remember when I was a college dean in the Chicago area, the drive home was anywhere between 50 minutes to an hour and a half, always dependent on traffic. I was having problems with some of my team members, my superiors, we'll just leave it at that, to a point where I was getting upset, angry, bothered. I remember coming home and yelling at my children for the most minute thing. They were paying the price because of the stressors that I was carrying from work. You don't think that affects our children, their learning, their study time, them coming up to ask for help, them asking, can we go to family night? It's going to be really good tonight. And the parents just getting upset. That stress will allow them to blow up. So we need to be aware of that. We need to teach them, what are your signs of stress? Now, here's the other part about it. Identifying is one part, but how do you say these things? How do our families say to their family, to their friends, to you, the school friend, supporter, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I need a break. And the words that most adults, not just those stressed, struggle with, I need help. Those are very difficult words to say. Because when we say those, sometimes we feel like, I'm broken, I'm no good, what are you going to say about me? You're going to judge me, you're going to tell me to just toughen up. And that's not it. That's not the truth. But we need to teach our families how to say these things, how to seek out help, how to seek out support. Because if they don't know how, they can't teach their children. If they're not teaching their children, they're not coming to you in the classroom when they're struggling. So go through some simulations, go through some, skits, go through some dialogues. Allow them to be able to communicate this with their family and be able to say, I don't like saying this because this is how I feel when I say I need help. I can't tell you I need a break because I don't want you to feel like I'm lazy. These are things that they need to be able to communicate. Now, let me get to the tips because this is why you showed up, because you're like, why you keep on talking about stressors? Because I'm already stressed. Let's talk about the tips. 1, we have to learn how to identify the stressors. Parents, I know exactly what you're going to say right away. My stressors are running around behind me right now, screaming, fighting against one another. Again, we're not going to be able to return those kids. They're yours. However, have you communicated to them what stresses you? Why it becomes cumbersome? Why it makes you irritated? When they yell, they scream, they're running. And also, have we reflected the other way around? They're yelling and screaming because they're desperate for your attention. So that's why they're getting loud. That's why they have to ask for your attention 3, 4 times. Mom, can I tell you this? Mom, I want to tell you. Mom, I need to tell you this. Mom. It's because they need your attention. So identify the stressors. We need to start there. Here's a big one that we can all talk about. When I say all, Exhibit A, practice self-care. Here's the best way that I can explain this one to you. Practice what you preach. Our educators, our parents, our caregivers, we are great at giving someone else advice. You should go do your nails. You should get a massage. You should go to the spa. The next time you say that, I need you to ask yourself, am I doing that? Am I practicing what I preach? Am I truly practicing self-care? Imagine if our family started to practice self-care and showed their children what it was like. Imagine if mom could say, can you all just give me 15 minutes, please? So that I can breathe, relax, gather my thoughts, and be here for you. Rest is important, but I know what most parents say. I don't have time to rest. I have to work. I have to wash. I have to clean. I have to make lunch. I have to. True. But I'm telling you this because I've said this to a lot of my friends. If you don't get the rest, you may be stuck in a permanent rest phase. And who are you going to help then? You need to get that rest. 7 to 8 hours of sleep is what's needed. Sometimes when we get it, we feel weird because we're not used to sleeping the amount of hours we're supposed to sleep. So get the rest that you're needed because that helps. Communicate your feelings. It's difficult. It's tough. If I tell my wife, hey, I need to talk to you, immediately she's like, uh-oh. Because I don't usually say those words. Because I'm the person that tries to figure it out, keeps pushing forward, always finds a solution to everything one way or the other. But sometimes we need to say, I need help. I feel tired. I'm anxious. I feel sad a lot. A lot of this has to do with our feelings and our overall well-being. And the last one is seek support. Now, sometimes we're seeking support from the other person that's just as broken as we are, just as stressed as we are, and doing worse than we are. But oddly enough, they can still give decent advice. They just don't follow it. What I want you to do is model the behavior for our families. So if you're feeling X, Y, and Z, anxiety, sadness, lack of hunger, too much eating whatever things, foods, change in behaviors, then we might need to talk to somebody about seeking out some help and some support. These things are critical. And I'm going to tell you right now, without getting political, because that's not my arena, post-election stress is happening. Post-election anxiety is happening. And I don't care what side you're on. I'm just telling you what is a fact. We need to be able to help our families. We need to be able to identify how we can support them, because there might be some laws changing that are going to skyrocket our stress. There might be some things that'll be happening within our schools that's going to make me as an educator concerned. And you know as well as I know that we can pass that stress on to someone else as well. And we don't want that. So again, just to recap the 5 tips. Identify your stressors. That's very important. Practice some sort of self-care. For some of us, it could be lawn care, just doing your lawn. Whatever self-care is for you, practice it. Rest. Get the sleep. There's studies that show that 1 hour of occasional daytime sleep is the equivalent to 3 hours of nighttime sleep. However, that doesn't work on a daily basis, so I'm just making sure you're aware of that. Communicate your feelings, even if it's in journals for now. But if we practice this in some of our meetings, as the beginning of our meeting or the end of our meeting, how are you feeling? Are you stressed? Are you happy? Are you sad? We can increase our family's vocabularies and in turn teach them how to communicate their feelings. And lastly, seek out support. Let's try to model the behavior because that's what matters most. Thank you for your patience because I know I'm trying to figure out this technology thing, y'all. Our next live will be December 3rd. And again, I'm going to say this again because I don't just want to talk to my camera. That's a little awkward. I want to make sure that what we're putting out there is beneficial and useful. If you have a topic that you would like for us to cover, please let us know in the chat. I'm going to try to get a little bit more active in our family engagement hub. But again, it doesn't matter if it's only me and one other person. This works if we use the wealth of knowledge that we have in this hub so that we can all support one another in this work that is desperately needed in our communities. Thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoyed. Take care. Have a good evening, everybody.